G'day, Trooper Cody here, and we've got part 3, I guess you'd call it, of a series of videos we've been doing that just turned out to be a bit too long, complex and interwoven to be a single video. So let's see how we go separating and tying in videos. What we're going to talk about is Rawhide. Hang on, you just sat and watched the Rawhide. Well, partly Rawhide, because I'm going to tell you about the star of Rawhide, Clint Eastwood. So how many of you know, be honest, did you know what year Clint Eastwood was born? Yes, Clint Eastwood was born in 1906. No, that's a fact. That is a fact. Clint Eastwood was born in 1906. And you say to yourself, hang on Steve, you're making this in 2023 and Clint Eastwood's still alive and he was born in 1906. Okay, let me just clarify. He loves the smell of gunpowder in the morning. I've proven this weapon, proven it to myself, proven it to my wife, proven it to my horse, why he is sniffing the barrel. Anyway, he loves the smell of gunpowder in the morning. I've given you a chance there to think about what the hell is he talking about. Of course Clint Eastwood was born in 1906, and I'm referring of course to Clint Eastwood Sr. because Clint Eastwood Jr., yes, it's actually his real name. Not only is it his real name, it's his dad's name as well. And the Clint Eastwood we all know as love as Josie Wales and Joe Kidd and Kelly from Kelly's Heroes and Coogan's Bluff, and well, the list goes on. 31st of May 1930 was when he was born. And when he grew up in Los Angeles, and most of his childhood was spent on his grandparents' ranch around horses, and that is where he learnt at an early age that he couldn't get near horses because he was allergic to horsehair. Can you believe that? Clint Eastwood Jr. was allergic to horsehair. I got a mate, and fair income, if I go to his house and he knows I'm coming, he has to take hay fever, whatever they're called, antihistamines. Has to take antihistamines, and if he forgets, his face goes red and his eyes turn into puffballs, and that is just from the horsehair on me, not actually being around a horse. So Clint Eastwood is something he grew out of, praise hallelujah, he grew out of. But originally when he was a kid on his grandparents' ranch, he was allergic to horses. He's drafted in 1951, does 2 years in the military, comes out of the military, goes into college in Los Angeles, and he's studying business administration. He's doing business administration because it's more likely to make money doing that, but because his love, what he wants to do, what he wants to get into, is music. He wants to be a musician and make a career in music, but there's not a lot of money in that, so a bit of common sense, he'll do business admin. So while he's studying business admin, let's do something for a bit of fun. So he takes up acting classes. While he's doing these acting classes, he's spotted by a talent scout from Universal Studios, and they sign him up to their acting classes and the program they have to develop young upcoming actors and get them shots at making movies, in shows, TV shows. So Clint does this, takes on the Universal Studios offer, and goes off to their acting. Now he did that in 1953, and by 1955, 2 years have passed, and in 2 years he has had 8 very small parts. I think from memory he's definitely had a small part in one of the Francis Talking Mule movies. I think it was Francis in the Navy, but one of them. Oh, well, wrong creature. But anyway, that was a small part. He also had a small part in, he was an outlaw biker in Highway Patrol with Broderick Crawford. I really mustn't ad-lib. I've got to stop doing that. But He's not making a living out of it, and so he finds the most lucrative thing, as often is the case with young men. The most lucrative thing he can do is physical labour, and he starts digging swimming pools. That's his job in the late 50s. He's digging swimming pools. Now then, if you've seen my other video, I don't know which order they'll get put up on, but you'll see that he was selected to audition in 58. So basically what we have is about 3 years, 2 or 3 years of digging swimming pools, 8 very minor bit parts, not much of a career is developing. Looks like Universal Studios are going to drop him off their training program when, out of the blue, out of nowhere, unexpectedly, he gets auditioned for Rawhide. I've told you about the Oxbow incident monologue he was supposed to learn for his audition, but he gets the part and he becomes a well-known, popular, very popular character in a hugely successful TV show. Now, also in another video I've mentioned Eric Fleming and how Eric and Clint did not get on. Eric makes no bones about saying he hated Clint Eastwood and thought he was unprofessional and didn't get on with him. There's animosity on the set, of that there is no doubt. So when Clint gets the job on Rawhide, you just think back to the late 50s, he's getting paid $700 a week. That's what he got paid per episode for making Rawhide. Now, the studio had a policy that if you got offered other work between seasons when you weren't filming episodes of Rawhide, you had no other commitments, then you were allowed to go and take other work. So there's some animosity with Eric Fleming. Things are a little bit difficult on the set, and so he hears about this guy who's going to make wasn't called spaghetti western then. He's going to make a western in Europe. Sergio Leone, and that movie in 1964 is a fistful of dollars. By now we're into the 7th season of Rawhide, and things are a little rocky and the ratings are dropping a bit, and so Clint is offered, can you believe this? You need to go and watch A Fistful of Dollars and then think Clint was offered $15,000 to star in that movie. No royalties, no comebacks, no nothing. 15 grand, boom, do it, film, go back to America, make a next season of Rawhide. So he went off and did that. Now what happened is, I don't think the movie was even released in America. Massive hit in Europe, but possibly not even released in America at all. Such a massive success in Europe that old Sergio decides he's going to stay on that bandwagon, and he is 65, just a year later, he's going to make a few dollars more. By this time, Clint is very popular in Europe, and so he ups the ante. So now he gets 50,000. 1 year later, it's gone from 15,000 to 50,000 flat to make a few dollars more, 65. We also have to say, of course, he got 50 grand flat for that, but by the final season of Rawhide, Clint was also on $100,000 a year per season for making Rawhide. So his salary had gone up a lot from the initial $700 a week to $100,000 a year. So by now, the second spaghetti western has been shown in America and has taken off. Now they're both starting, it's taken a couple of years, but they're both starting to become a reasonable sort of hit in America. Clint Eastwood was getting to be a bit better known. So Sergio says he's got really grand plans. And I'd love to whistle the tune, but you know what it is. It's the good, the bad and the ugly. And would you believe that having got 15,000 for the first movie and 50,000 1 year later for the second, Clint got a flat $250,000, a $250,000, still flat, no royalties, no percentages, $250,000 for The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. What's interesting, the way these things turn around and go around, in 1969, Clint Eastwood is offered the role, the lead role, in Once Upon a Time in the West. What an opening to a movie. In the station, the water, you know, the water wheel going round and there's creaking boards, the buzzing flies. It's a great opening. So Clint Eastwood was offered the role for the lead of that movie, and he didn't like it, didn't want to do it, and so Charles Bronson took the job, became a megastar from starring in Once Upon a Time in the West. And the true irony, interesting thing is that Sergio Leone originally wanted Charles Bronson for the first spaghetti western that Clint got paid 15 grand. He wanted Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson turned it down. Then Clint Eastwood got it. Then Clint Eastwood turns down Once Upon a... It's almost incestuous, really, isn't it? So really, after The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, what we find with Clint is the western, spaghetti western side of things are dying off. And what we've got is 68, Hang 'em High, 70, Two Mules for Sister Sarah. Sorry, I missed in between those was Paint Your Wagon with Lee Marvin, a musical, Clint Eastwood in a musical. Sort of took him back to his original wanting to be in music, I guess, when he was a kid. Joe Kidd in 72, which I'm sure strikes a chord with many of us that are also interested in weapons, because Broomhandle Mauser stars in Joe Kidd. Who doesn't have almost erotic fantasies about owning a full-blown Broomhandle Mauser, shoulder stock, holster, the whole bit? What a weapon that was. High Plains Drifter in 73, The Outlaw Josie Wales in 76. I'm very lucky, and I remember going to the opening of The Outlaw Josie Wales, and you know, incredibly, it was also in the Piccadilly Theatre. The Piccadilly Theatre that I've mentioned before, in stunning Art Deco building. It was often where important movies, or movies that were seen to be going to be huge, was where they opened. And again, I remember being upstairs in the expensive seats for Outlaw Josie Wales, convinced that Josie was going to get killed by the end of the... Convinced that he was going to get killed by... Hoping he wasn't. But it's a hell of a thing when you can think back and remember being at the opening of a movie before it all becomes so well known. I made a video about Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and how fabulous to have seen that brand spanking new. So you didn't know what was going to happen. You didn't know about the kick in the balls, and you didn't know about a few other bits. Anyway, got sidetracked. Josie Wales, 76. Then in there we got Bronco Billy. I love Bronco Billy. Be interested, if you've watched it this far, what do you think of Bronco Billy? I just love Bronco Billy. Sondra Locke is in Bronco Billy, and I better be a bit careful what I say on a G-rated channel about Sondra Locke in Bronco Billy, but I've said enough, I think. But it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Wish I could remember the horse's name from Bronco Billy. He gets a good mention in the credits. Pale Rider in 85. The Unforgiven in 92. Of course, by the time we come to 92 and The Unforgiven, what we then come to is that only 3 movies in the history of the Academy. In the history, should I do a Billy Crystal spoof? I wouldn't know how to, but in the whole history of the Academy, there have only been 3 Best Pictures given for a Western. In 1931, Best Picture, Cimarron. In 1990, Best Picture, Dances with Wolves. And in 1992, Unforgiven. Academy Award, Best Picture, and a swag of others too. So how easy it would be to go down the wormhole, the rabbit hole, some hole. Don't come back to Sondra Locke. When it comes to Clint Eastwood, what a legend. fair income, there's no doubt about it. And I'm going to leave you with, if you watch the movie The Mule, watch the making of The Mule, because what I love about the making of The Mule is you will see Clint Eastwood acting, and you'll see this man in his 80s in The Mule, and then you will see Clint Eastwood the director in his 90s, and then you'll see Clint Eastwood like this. Move this here, do this, yeah, I reckon do this shot here, yeah, do it. And then he's going to act it. So then he's back as a man in his 80s, really looking a man in his 80s. And then he's going back to himself, and he's back, baby, he's back. What a man. Hey, we better not get too carried away with old Clint Eastwood, eh? So there you go. If you want to see more bizarre, unusual, strange, incredibly badly told, ad-libbed, facts wrong stories, stay tuned, come back. Keep a lookout for our long form format, starting to even talk like a YouTube person. Last video, mate, that's it. We're shutting down for the night now, the sun's setting. It's mid-fall, autumn, depending on your inclination, but a nice, nice night. It's very mild. And the smell, the horse is a little sweaty. And fair income, the smell. If only I could bottle this smell. My God. It's magnificent, isn't it? Isn't it? Hey? Alright. Let's go. Click subscribe. Make a comment. Like it.